Mama, mama, hear my cry, hear my cry, hey, hey, hey. We must dismiss the fallacious notion that the white man can give the black man his freedom. No man can give his brother his freedom. Every man was born free, African can come.
All I need now is a blessing from Jehovah. All I need now is a blessing from Jehovah. All I need now is a blessing from Jehovah. All I need now is a blessing from Jehovah.
Seek ye first the kingdom of your righteousness, and the blessing I will follow, cause the word is truth. See many tribulations, many trials I've seen. Still more divine day upon my supremacy. Through them wicked rising with them wicked vices. Then when we conform to them wicked system, them brutalizing and dehumanizing. Still they are waiting Babylon crumbles once again.
All I need now is a blessing from Jehovah. All I need now is a blessing from Jehovah. All I need now is a blessing from Jehovah. All I need now is a blessing from Jehovah.
In South Africa, when the white man come, them bring the Bible and the ammunition. You humble with the Bible or you crumble with the gun. Many black people are praise the blue white Christ. All Africa starving and black people dying. See many black people in mental slavery. Knowledge is power and many despise it. Me heart goes off for the youth, yeah, me all out again.
All I need now is a blessing from Jehovah. All I need now is a blessing from Jehovah. All I need now is a blessing from Jehovah. All I need now is a blessing from Jehovah.
We can't integrate and we can't accommodate them. We must overcome them. Black people must be freed. May allow the beauty of the planet being sacrificed. Industrialization and exploitation, extinction and diminishing miraculous lives. Genetically modifying my food, causing my destruction, chemical pollution. Building nuclear weapons for them more protection. African leaders watching, Babylon still looting. They're blessing my money if we keep Africa from hurting once again.
All I need now is a blessing from Jehovah. All I need now is a blessing from Jehovah. All I need now is a blessing from Jehovah. All I need now is a blessing from Jehovah. All I need now is a blessing from Jehovah. All I need now is a blessing from Jehovah. All I need now is a blessing from Jehovah. All I need now is a blessing from Jehovah.
Yes, that was Russ. Sorry, Russ. Sorry, his name is actually Bentum Israel.
Yes,
And,
Bentum, Israel. Bentum,
yes,
Israel.
Bentum Israel, and he's right here in the studio with us. Hi, Israel. How are you?
Everything is blessed by the grace of the Most High. Yeah, you don't
Good.
know.
Well, welcome to the show. This is the Karibuni Show, and yeah. So please let the listeners know what song that was, and like what was going on through your mind when you wrote that.
Thank you very much. That song is called All I Need Now. And as an African, seeing the economic hardships that is going on there, through no doings of the African people, but, through, manipulations of the West and their institutional, stresses they are putting on the African continent, you see. So yeah, I think every human being don't want separation. Every human being wants to have a wonderful life, and when you see that one person is trying to
Hold on. Sorry, we're actually experiencing a technical difficulty, so we'll actually head to the song and then we'll come back right with Israel Bentum. Sorry about that.
da da da, na na na. Oh. Like the morning sun, I tell you that though I go down, I will rise again. Like the morning sun, I tell you that I'm up from my past, rooted in pain, tribulations and trials and sorrows too. As a living man with holy power works we do, we'll never give up on life now, 'cause Jah will see me through, yeah. Through the blessing of the King, barriers have been broken into. Rely on stepping with fire. Gosh, I feed the eagle and the dragon and the deer. Chains of oppression can never hold me down, 'cause I heal. 7 times fall, not to rise again. Yeah. I go down, I will rise again. Like the morning sun, I tell you that though I go down, I will rise again. Like the morning sun, I tell you that living righteously is not an easy road, with many more hills and valleys, temptations too. Through the shadow of death, won't fear no evil, 'cause me born as a true conqueror. The captives must be free from bondage. I go down, I will rise again. Like the morning sun, I tell you that though I go down, I will rise again. Like the morning sun, I tell you that oh, 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 I will rise again.
Listening to CIUT 89.5 FM, and this is the Caribuni Show. Had here every Sunday from 3 to 5 p.m. And that was a song from the track that's Bentum Israel and his song Rise Again from the album The Rise. So yes, sorry about that. At the beginning of the interview, we're having some technical difficulties. My apologies. And now we'll have him right back, and then he can actually tell us, because we played 2 songs from that CD, All I Need Now and Rise Again. So yes, Israel, please tell me what like the inspiration behind that song.
Yes, thank you very much. The inspiration behind the first song, actually, All I need now, like I said earlier on, is just very sad to see, or as a person who loves to travel, I go around the world and I see, some nations doing well and some nations not doing well. And if you go to the root cause of why some nations aren't doing well, it's not any doings of their own selves, because me as a Ghanaian originally, seeing all the natural resources we have and then the West controlling the natural resources, it makes it very hard for a nation like that to really, rise and economically gain the independence that the West has. So that's why I say all I need now is a blessing from the Most High Jah, because, he's the one who guides and controls things, and through slavery and the brainwash education and the foreign gods that Africans are worshiping, it's making all the blessing that the Most High has bestowed on us being taken away, giving way for the enslavers to still control the land. And that is a lamentation from my heart, actually. So that's why it's all I need now. And the second track is Rise Again. Is an uplifting song, actually, because I see all the problems going on, and I see the youth, and I'm talking to the youth anytime, anywhere I go. It's like, they are really pumped up and wanting to change, the ills that is going on the land, that is corruption and the Western influence, be it IMF, trying to come in with infrastructural adjustment programs, to cripple the economy, or telling them not to grow their, foodstuffs, and they're gonna, import food subsidy from the US or, Canada or wherever it is, who want to eat food subsidies, and now bringing in the genetically modified food. How can you genetically modify food that people are eating? Indirectly, you are saying that their genes got to be, genetically changed, and that is all to give way for the mark of the beast. So, even though Africans, we go down, don't feel down. You must know that, in this Iowa Revelation, Armageddon time, we rising again. So, yeah, that's what it is about.
So, I take it, from like hearing you speak, that God influences a lot of what you do, in your music and, in what you do.
Yes, I am a spiritual man, and Africans, who are the true Israelites. So if you read the scriptures and learn about the true Israelites, they are African people. African people, if you read your history, were born for the service and the worship of the Most High Jah. So if you look around the world, you look around creation, every species, every kind of human being was created for a purpose. The purpose of the black man, was to serve the Most High Jah, the God of Israel, Jehovah. Some people call him Jah. Some people call him Jehovah, Alpha. I say Jah, Rastafari, the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, conquering Lion of the tribe of Judah. So being Israel, the name that is being bestowed upon me, it means the father of all nations. I can't do anything else than to be spiritual and praise the name of the Most High Jah.
And, when you're writing your songs, where do you draw inspiration from?
Oh, that's a good question. It's so funny because the songs just come to me. Most of the time, I'm just walking and then I get the song. At times I'll be sleeping and then the song will just come to me and I'll get up, pick my guitar and start writing it. And there are some songs, I'm a sound engineer too, so there are some songs, if I'm in the studio and I'm creating rhythms, the lyrics just come, as soon as the rhythm comes. So that's how it is. So the music just comes, it's just in the blood, in the vein. And another thing too is, I've got my antenna connected straight to the Most High, so whatever message the Most High wants to relay to his people, it just comes straight through the antenna and it just goes out of my mouth, which is the two-edged sword to the people.
So then I have to ask you, since you say, like the music just comes Do you actually have a book underneath your pillow that if an idea comes, you just have to pick up the notebook and write it?
I have books all over my house. I work with books, and it's so funny these days with technology. I have recorders all over, like in my pocket everywhere I go. So anytime I get the inspiration, I either voice it out or I write it down. So yeah.
Okay, so you've picked another track. So why don't you tell the listeners, what track you picked up?
Well, the track I picked is called Victims, and I say when the politicians strike again, warring, shooting, and looting, it is we, the women, the children, the youth of today who are the victims. When you have a family that is dysfunctional, when mother and father are at war with each other, it is the children that suffer, so it's about time we learn and know that, every little action causes a reaction. So if something like a feather can cause a hurricane around, another part of the world, you have to know that every little action that you put out has an equal, reaction. So, to the families out there, it's not easy, but, you have to try. The moment that that, you try to have a relationship with someone, when you're having problems, you go back to the core of the relationship, where the relationship started, because every relationship starts with love, so if you go back to the love, you forget about everything that comes after, because there's so many energies, negative energies that is fighting against relationships. But then if you go beyond that, it's all the ego of the humankind that breaks relationship. Put that aside and go to the love. The same way with the political energies around the world. Everybody is fighting, and it is ego, The ego of a human being can destroy a nation, can destroy the whole wide world. If you look at what is happening around the world, America is going around telling everybody what they have to do and what they don't have to do. Canada can go around the world and say, hey, you can do this and you can't do that. I'm right to have nuclear weapons. You can't have nuclear weapons. Why? Because they want to control. It's ego trying to, control people. But then when you put all the control aside and you want us to live in peace and harmony in the world, it's a beautiful place for all of us to enjoy. So that's why I say victims. We are the victims when these people go at war.
Okay, so we'll listen to the song Victims.
When politicians strike again, robbing, shooting and looting. When mama papa start to fight and no peace can be obtained. When politicians strike again, robbing, shooting and looting. When mama papa start to fight and no peace can be obtained. When politicians strike again, robbing, shooting and looting. When mama papa start to fight and no peace can be obtained. Babylon and wait for shot, yo. Babylon never did like yo. Don't be a fool. They monitors your spirit and your soul, making we collateral for them loans. Mass illusion, expecting with a smile from them tears. Youth man, you have to watch your ways. Reduction of the race, new world order in effect. Science still advanced on the place. Mark out the beast. What them microchip with them are spread. Soon them a put it on your head. In cages we are trapped, forever being trapped. Drugs and warfare reduce the nation. Many nation in globalization. Strong man tax creating ghostly nation. Exploitation, quick assassination. Fireman ablaze with them domination. Why? When politicians strike again, robbing, shooting and looting. When mama and papa start to fight and no peace can be obtained. When politicians strike again, robbing, shooting and looting. When mama and papa start to fight and no peace can be obtained. When politicians strike again, robbing, shooting and looting. When mama and papa start to fight and no peace can be obtained. Victims of war, victims of love, victims of society that's corrupt. Victims of war, victims of love, victims of society that are youth man in Libya and in Iraq, youth man in Zion and in Babylon,
Youth man in a ghetto and in a booyah. Youth man in a family that's been divorced now. The whole world is in a total transformation, yeah. Where greed is the norm, no love for humankind. Stop blame all of the youth from the youth of Boston. Stop blame all of the youth of the youth of 16. Stop blame all of the youth that's arrogant and vile. Blame on us all from the teachings you are give. Stop blame all of the youth from the youth of Boston. Stop blame all of the youth of the youth of 16. Stop blame all of the youth that's arrogant and vile. Blame the dirty media and the system you are in, yeah. One politician strike again, robbing, shooting and looting. When mama papa start to fight, and no peace can be obtained. When politicians strike again, robbing, shooting and looting. When mama papa start to fight, and no peace can be obtained. When politicians strike again, robbing, shooting and looting. When mama papa start to fight, and no peace can be obtained.
We're listening to CIUT 89.5 FM, and you are listening to Karibuni Show, and I'm Joanne Piloya, and we have a special guest, Bentum Israel, and we were listening to his song called We Are Victims, or Victims Really. Yes, and he said earlier on that I'll let him explain it again.
Yes, basically, when relationships do break up, relationships with children, when those relationships break up, it is the children who suffer. And if you look around, there's a lot of single mothers and single fathers and raising these children. You need the yin and the yang to raise a family, to raise children, And the effect of this breakup actually is terrible. It's detrimental to the growth and upbringing of the children. So that's why victims, the children become the victims when the parents fight for whatever reasons. But I'm saying that, they say whatever goes up comes down, and if relationships don't really work out, they have reasons why they don't work out. But then if you please take a time to look at the children, how they feel, what is going to happen to them when you break up, you really have to really consider that.
So I have to ask you a question, Israel. Are you married?
Yes, please, I am.
Okay. No, I'm just making sure. So the listeners, I'm asking this because the listeners might be wondering in their head, what is he talking about? Is he married? Does he even have kids to say that?
Well, from experience, they say experience is the best teacher. And I have children and I love my children so much so, and there's nothing that I will do to actually, disturb, the peace and the happiness of my children. And so that is where it comes from.
And the happiness of your wife?
Oh, yes. My happiness is her happiness, and the children are both our happiness.
Okay, good. Just making sure. So, yes, and, I wanted to know, this album, The Rise. Mm-hmm. Why did you call it The Rise?
The Rise, yes, interesting. I call it The Rise because, being an African Ghanaian, as a matter of fact, reaching this height in my music career, I've been doing music for quite some time, and it seems like, it's about time I get out there again and put, the real Israel, on the market. And so the Rise signifies, a new beginning, an upbringing, an uprising, coming out of my shelf to, show people what Israel is really about.
And why don't you explain? I had this question about your name, because you're called Bentum Israel.
It's Bentum Israel.
Oh, Bentum Israel.
Bentum Israel.
Okay, so please explain, to the listeners, how did you get that name? Because you're Ghanaian.
Yes. Well, Bentum is a Ghanaian name, and Israel is an African name. If you know, history will tell you that the people who are living in Israel are not called Israelites. They are called Israelis. and the scripture talks about the Israelites. So being an Israelite, I think the name Israel befits an Israelite because originally I'm a Jew. You know, the indigenous Jew, the Falashas, the original Jews, you know what I mean? So if you're talking about the Jews, we're not talking about the modern day Jews. We're talking about the original Jews. If you can take a time out to research the original Jews, you find out that they are the Falashas. And so me being an ancient, you know, Falasha, you know, is a befitting person to have that name and, you know, bestowed upon me by my parents. And Bentum, it's my spiritual name, you know. That's why I said earlier on, Africa is a spiritual place, and everything about Africa, it's spiritual, you know. Aside the physicality that you see, it goes way beyond, you know, the realms of the physical. So Bentum is a spiritual name that was bestowed upon me by my spiritual fathers.
And how did you get into music?
Well, that's an interesting story. You know, music has been part of me since I was born. I think everybody is a musician. It's just you have to, you know, tap into that energy of yours to bring out that creative part of you. But I was a musician from when I was young. In the village that I grew up in, we actually didn't have musical instruments, so we were making instruments out of tins and pans and boxes and what have you. So as a young, you know, boy growing up in the village, after school, after homework, you know, you definitely have to do your homework. No homework means more beatings.
Oh, did you get the beatings? Because my teacher was so bad. I actually have a scar on my arm that
Yes.
if you do not do your homework, you got a spanking for the rest of your life.
Oh yes, you know, we really got it good. We really got it good. The beatings was like, I don't know, but you know, back home they say spare the rod and spoil the child, right? But here in the side of the world is different. Things have changed back home though. But you know, I really appreciated the beatings I got because that made me the better person that I am today. I'm not gonna beat my children. I will never beat my children. But then it's like, you know, it's development, it's growth. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's what it is. So yeah, you know, after our homework, we did sit down and in groups and, you know, with tins and pans and boxes and make music. And so I had a small band, and then every weekend we entertain our peers and stuff like that. And then in high school, I joined the music choir, you know, singing. And then, but I didn't really like music. It's so funny. I was always running away from music class. I was the guy who was like, oh, when it's music class, I'm like, nah, I'm not going.
And then now you're a musician.
Yes. It's interesting because to cut a long story short, when I was in first year in university, I met a good musician, a Ghanaian musician actually. And he told me, like, I was writing a lot of songs. So when I met him, I'm like, oh, you know what? I got songs that if you can sing it, that would be great. And he's like, oh, you write songs? Are you a musician? I'm like, no, I'm not a musician, but I know how to write songs. So how can you possibly write songs when you're not a musician? I'm like, well, I'm doing accounting and stuff in school, but I just love to write stuff that I feel I have the flair in writing that. So he took me to his house, and he had a small studio, and it's like, okay, can you show me some of the songs? So yeah, I showed him one song, and he's like, oh, that is one good song. So we decided to work on the song. He did the song. That song became a hit. And actually, he didn't even remember me with the money that came after. But then what he did was he came back to me after the money was squandered and like, hey, buddy, can we do more songs? And I'm like, yeah, I don't have any problem. But remember, he didn't give me anything though. But then I told him like I wanted to get into music. And because you told me, how can I be a musician if I can't, how can I write songs if I can't be a musician or if I'm not a musician? So I now want to be a musician. So he's like, okay, then which instrument do you think you can play? I'm like, I think I can play any instrument. I just have to learn it. So he's like, okay. So I picked the rhythm guitar, and then I started teaching myself how to play the guitar. And unfortunately, when my parents saw that, okay, I'm doing that, they're like, you know what, if you don't stop that music, you know, you're not going to school anymore because we don't want that. And at that time, I started growing my hair. So they started getting confused, like, okay, this guy is growing his hair and he's doing music, he's picked guitar, like, what is happening to your education? I'm like, I'm studying, but I love music as a hobby. They're like, no, music and music, your school and your school alone, no music. I'm like, okay, I love music. So my dad was one of those strict guys. So he's like, you know what, if that is what is going to be the case, you are not going to school anymore. So I dropped out of, university. And I took the guitar serious and I taught myself and started playing with bands here and there. And so that's how I actually started. And my break came in when Bentum was on tour with his Still Shallow album. I teamed up with African Star and Morgan, the cousin of Morgan Heritage, who is Michael Morgan. And we went around, we did this African tour. So after that, I'm like, you know what? I think I'm good now to be able to write my own songs and produce my own songs, because like I'm now playing on an international stage. I actually play with Lucky Dube, I play with a whole couple of them, like a whole good musician. So I'm like, you know what, I think I'm at the point where I can do the same thing these guys are doing, because I can write songs and people like the songs that I write, so why can't I go out there and do it? So in 2002, I came up with my first album. We didn't do that well, basically because economically I couldn't push it. And then I went back home, established a recording studio to help some of the local artists. 2004, I went back to England. 2005, I was in Canada. I played Afrofest and a couple of shows. Then I decided to take a break and concentrate on the family, because the family is very much important to me. And so the rise is like, those who knew me then will be wondering, what was Israel doing? Israel took time out of the music to do what? Well, to better educate myself in sound engineering and take time out to take care of my family. And so now I'm ready to be out and do the thing I love, that is music.
Okay, so that is actually a really fascinating story of how, you did not think you were a musician, but now you're actually a musician.
Yeah.
So why don't we go back to the music, listen to another track. So this track that you chose, it's called Where Is the Love? So let's listen to the song, then we'll come back and you can explain what the song was about and how were you feeling at that time.
Thank you.
Okay.
See the youth are starving, then I would ask them if they won't pick them when they fall. Then I would ask them why they never free the poor man youth. The youth are crying, and what them say, where's the love in this world? The youth are crying. Chance, I'll speak to you, man, out there. You love to plant the seed, but you don't care to watch the seed grow. You love to plant the seed, but you don't care to watch the seed grow. Just look deep inside your heart and make a change for the youth one. The youth are crying. It's so sad to
to CIUT 89.5 FM, and in the background, that's Bentum Israel, and with his song, Where is the Love? I was just telling him that I could talk to him for 2 hours straight. Yeah, so, so where is the love? What were you thinking about?
Well, you see, if you listen to the news and all the political talks going around, all they're saying is like, oh, poverty alleviation and all this and all that. But really and truly, if you look at the amount of money that they spent on wars and creating wars, killing innocent women and children, that money could be used in, eliminating poverty. And so it is very hypocritical when you hear political leaders talking about, oh, this country is poor and that country is poor. What are you doing? You indebt these nations, and then come back and say that, oh, they are poor. No, they are not poor. You are making them poor. And, when you're doing that, you're putting puppet leaders, to control, your actions, that you are putting out. But then what happens again is the children that are suffering, the children, the future leaders of tomorrow. So which kind of future, are we expecting if we are killing off, the generation that is coming after with all our actions? So that's why I'm like, where is the love? Like, we really are too wicked of a species.
Yeah, earlier on you were talking about, your parents weren't very supportive at first. In fact, your dad refused to pay school fees for you. What about now? What do they say?
Well, you see, there's a saying that, the rejected cornerstone becomes, the rejected stone becomes the end cornerstone. And so basically that's what it is now. Now they are very happy with me, and there isn't a single day that goes by without any of them calling me to make sure I'm okay. Because
so they finally accepted that you were going to be a musician for it.
Well, it's just I don't blame them. It's an African mentality. It's like, oh, maybe I'll say it's a black mentality. We want our children to go to school. Basically, that is what the slave master told us. If you don't get education, you wouldn't be able to do anything. But if you check around the world, like, here, if your child is not doing well in school, you look at other opportunities out there. But then if you are like, oh, it's either education or nothing more, nothing less. So it's just, puts, people in a fix. It's not everybody who is going to excel through education. So, I feel like, parents have to really listen to their children, listen to what they want, because now I can tell you my parents are happy. They can see how a responsible man I've grown to be, irrespective of what, they did early on in my life.
So we'll actually listen and pay tribute to your heritage, Ghana, and the track is actually called Ghana too. So let's listen to that. We have about 10 minutes to the end of Karibuni. Just keep it locked right here on CIUT 89.5 FM.
In my country, sweetest country, best of countries, the place I call my home, the place I call my home. Oh, yeah. The beauty of the land is like its people, strong and calm, but solid as a rock. So rich and fertile, the envy of the West, been used and abused, but still moving strong. Red for the blood we spilled in slavery, yellow for the riches and wealth of the land, green for the fertile plantations we got, black star for the people that compute. In my country, sweetest country, best of countries, the place I call my home, the place I call my home. nationalism stems from the core Pan-Africanism, right through new colonialism. Intelligently we did now the bad mind. Forward ever and backwards never. Politically a peaceful nation, united we stand from independence. 6th of March 1957. In my country, sweetest country, best of countries, the place I call my home, the place I call my home. Oh, 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 yeah. Ghana has the loveliest people, Ghana has the warmest beaches, Ghana has many diverse cultures, still live in peace and harmony. Ghana has so many diamonds, Ghana has so much gold, Ghana has so many resources, still live in peace and harmony. In my country, sweetest country, best of countries, the place I call my home, the place I call my home. Oh, 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 yeah.
You're listening to CIUT 89.5 FM, and this is the Karibuni Show, had here every Sunday from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. And keep it locked. Soon, across the universe will be in any minute. But in the meantime, I'm still speaking to
Bentum, Israel.
Bentum, Israel. And yes, and we have been talking to him, and he is so interesting to talk to. Yeah, so the song that we just heard was he was paying a tribute to his homeland, Ghana. What was, like you were talking about the beauty of Ghana and all that. What do you think of, Ghana at the moment? What do you see in the future happening to Ghana? Because I know you go back often over there.
Well, I see the future bright, but still looking gloomy because just now I'm hearing about the European Union, fighting to buy off all the ports of, the West African coasts. And they're still in parliament, they're still fighting. And like Africa can't come here and say, okay, we're buying all the ports. And then we decide that imports from, Ghana are supposed to be free. But they are buying out, the West African coastal, countries and saying that all the imports that is coming in from the West should be tax-free. You understand? And then, it is rather going to create a lot of problems on the continent because inflation is going to go high because there's lack of productivity. If you are, putting too much of your resources, into another man's country and them exporting very little, definitely inflation is going to rise, leaving the country in poverty. So with all the beauty, Ghana has oil, diamond, gold, bauxite, and all the natural resources. But I keep saying that, Africa can never rise if we still modeling our constitution from the West. Africa can't be independent if we are still under the Commonwealth that is headed by the colonial masters. Africa will never be free if IMF and the World Bank is still dictating to us and still having puppet leaders, controlling and, doing whatever they want to do. But like I say in my music, the youth of today are very, pumped up. They don't like what is going on and they're definitely going to fight for their rights. So it's up to the West to know that, all that they are doing is eventually going to come to an end. There's a bright future.
Good. Well, I was also, when I listen to some of your tracks, I keep remembering, it brings to mind people like Alpha Blondie, Lucky Dube. Are those, who are some of your inspirations in your music? I mean, past musicians or present musicians, really?
Well, My inspiration was Joseph Hill, that is culture. I got Lucky Dube, Joseph Hill from Jamaica, Lucky Dube from South Africa, and Alpha Blondie, who was close to me. And I love these people because, these people were really telling, if you listen to their music, you can relate to the music, and it's like someone telling you your life story, someone telling you what is happening now. And that is why I like my music, it's what it is, because I don't see myself telling or talking or singing anything that is unreal. I'm not I don't believe in fiction. I believe in reality. And these people were men of reality. And my reality is what is going on in the world that is creating problems, chaos, havoc, poverty, people dying, sickness, diseases. If all these things are eliminated, the world is a beautiful place. So yeah, these are the people who I really got inspiration from. And another one, fella Kuti, he is one of my major inspiration. But yeah, with reggae, if you talk about Alpha Blondie and I don't know if you have any Alpha Blondie, but I'll be very much happy if I hear some Alpha Blondie.
Well, you're actually in luck. Yes, I do have some Alpha Blondie tracks, and we'll actually go out with them an Alpha Blondie track. In fact, Alpha Blondie played last Afrofest. I don't know if you were there at that concert.
Yes.
That was absolutely
That was
amazing.
electrifying.
Yes.
Yes.
At one point, you should have seen the field of Woodbine Park. There were so many people, everybody just humming, and, jumping up and down.
Yeah, actually, I was in Jamaica by then, but I was feeling the vibration because people were telling me, "Oh my God, your guy is here, man! What the hell are you doing in Jamaica?" Or like, yeah, business has to be done,
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Well, we are actually out of time, but you know what, Bentum? Thank you so much for coming in and chatting with me today. And his album is called The Rise, and he's actually going to tell us, what he's actually working on at the moment and how can we get your CDs.
Well, I'm working on getting the CDs to the stores. I'm working on launching here. I did a show in Florida. I'm off to Grenada for another show. And then if I come back, hopefully the launching date will be known to the general public. But you can link me up on Facebook, Bentum Israel on Facebook. You can link me up on my YouTube channel, Bentum Israel on YouTube. You can go to my website, www.bentumisraelmusic.com. And all the electronic mediums, you can link me up. But yeah, hit me up and let's have a good chat. I'm open for discussion. I'm open for shows. I'm open for, anything that is positive. 100% positivity and not a local ounce of negativity. You see what I say? Boom. Rastafari.
Well, thank you so much. And that was Bentum Israel. Thank you so much. So this is the time that I tell you what's going on in the beautiful city, African city of Toronto. April 16th, just keep it in your calendar. And now I just lost it. That's because you just brought all the positive energy, Israel.
Yes, it's all about positivity, Yeah.
Yes, April 16th, Johnny Clegg will be in Toronto. He will be at the Royal Conservatory Museum. Royal Conservatory of Music. So please go online at the Carner Hall and look up the tickets. Tickets are selling fast. You do not want to miss out. And he is bringing his son, so that should really be a wonderful show. And April 17th, looking up, looking further, it's the Zimbabwean independence. So please, TK Smooth is still selling tickets. You can call him up. Or you can actually go to moonriseentertainment.com and find out more information on how to get tickets and that. And I think that's a wrap for us today. Next week, don't forget, it is the membership drive. It's CIUT's spring membership drive, and Caribuni will be here right in full spring with great music, and Nadine McNulty will be back next Sunday, so please tune in from 3 to 5 p.m. and right now across the universe. So we'll listen to a bit of Alpha Blondie, and then across the universe, it's coming up next. Thank you so much. Until next time, take care.